I think that something that's very important is to look at what's going on in Canada right now, because they're not that far away. I mean, they're definitely not that far from where you live.
No, they're not.
And
they're right over yonder.
I really need people to understand how much of an actual psychopath Justin Trudeau is. And the current, I mean,
the fact that he trained the Chinese military on winter warfare in Canada says all you need to know about that man.
Yeah.
And his priorities.
Let me make sure the sound is on.
RCMP are on scene and crews are putting fences up around GraceLife Church. Our Kim Smith joins us live now with the latest.
Yeah, hi, Aaron and Vinesh. I'm here outside GraceLife Church. AHS is confirming that it has blocked access to the church by putting fencing around. RCMP are also on scene here, providing support to AHS workers. Now that we know that there are supporters on scene here from GraceLife Church. More and more cars are showing up, parking along the strip. GraceLife Church and parishioners have defied health orders for months now by not wearing masks, not distancing. Our global news cameras have seen people hugging outside of the church. We also know that Pastor James Coates of GraceLife Church has spent time behind bars as well.
Okay, so God forbid people hug each other. I just want to mention before I play the next one, Canada's news is basically state-run.
Yep.
It gets taxpayer dollars. It's state-run. If you want to look at modern fascism, I kind of don't think you have to look much further than Canada at this point.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
He's a criminal, too, so you can't trust him.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to the next one.
On the first Sunday since RCMP erected a barrier around the GraceLife Church outside Edmonton, a crowd of hundreds gathered in protest. The church had been defying public health orders for months. Earlier in the day, a convoy of supporters set off from Calgary. By midday, the peaceful protest took a turn when a small number of people charged the barrier, tearing portions of the fence down. Just one of several recent acts of defiance against public health orders. On Tuesday, the Alberta government ordered an end to indoor dining, but by the weekend, places in Calgary, Edmonton, and parts in between were refusing to close their doors.
I just don't see the reasoning for it, and if I close again, I may never open again.
We've had enough of this. It's not sustainable. We don't like where this is going.
We cannot survive if we do another lockdown. My staff cannot survive.
You're muted.
I'm muted. So they erected a wall, if you will, around a church. What did you notice anything? And we're gonna get to the last clip. But did you notice anything about like where that church was located?
It's in Edmonton, and what about it?
It's like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, middle of nowhere.
If you look at oh shoot, I didn't mean to play this yet. If you look at what am I trying to say? Yeah, you look at like where it is and those overhead views, and they're like, oh, there are people parked on the street. It's like you can't even see the helicopters like flying around out there. You can't even see the people parked on the street, right? And then the lady's like, I was gonna say this again, but the lady's like, they were hugging. Like, oh no! Like it's just like clutching my pearls. Like they were hugging.
How dare they hug? COVID's going around, and there's a 0.001% chance.
Okay, so that all happened. There was a protest. They tore down the fence. I believe this past weekend, right?
Right.
And then this happened.
Now the shock troops are coming. They have gas masks, so they're getting ready for pepper spray.
Need protection from churches.
200 cops
Communists
now.
and Nazis need
One
to
church,
be protected
200
from
cops.
churches.
Helicopters.
You're on the wrong side. The police.
So we're at close to 200 cops now.
You should be taking the fence down and
Gas
standing
masks,
up
they work for the
visors and stuff. Gas
What did I
masks
tell my
for
daughter tonight?
gas.
That the police are here to
200
protect her from this
cops.
book.
And a
Men
helicopter.
in uniform that she's supposed
40
to trust
vehicles
are
for
here
one
to
church.
protect.
So, GraceLife in Alberta had their pastor arrested, had a fence erected around their building. They took action, tore the fence down, and they sent two. Okay, so who knows if it was really 200 cops? Like, I don't know if that's actually been completely reported, or it's like how accurate like the count is. But that was a lot of cops.
Yeah, it was. And why isn't this blown up on Twitter within Christianity? Like, where are the people calling this out? This is wrong, because people have been manipulated by the narrative of COVID. And again, this isn't saying that COVID isn't serious.
Or
it's not
real.
saying that, but the public individuals should have the right to assess the risk they want to take with their life.
Exactly.
Vaccinated or not vaccinated. You're
You're
entitled to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. There's no asterisks, no apostrophe, and beyond that, just biblically.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't want to.
We're all made in God's image, and that's where it starts and that's where it ends.
I don't want to get too deep into.
We have that Christian liberty and freedom. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're good. I say, I don't want to get too deep into this tonight, because I think there's probably a time for this to kind of reassess what I will say is as how the church as a whole, like as a collective, handled the last year. If I was going to give them a letter grade based on personal beliefs, I would give them a D.
Yeah, with the exception of a few.
Exactly. That's why it's not
one.
Yeah.
John MacArthur's church being one.
Yeah.
Our church did a great job. I know some other churches who did a great job.
I worry legitimately that churches were too quick to just disperse, go online, and we're willing to stay that way. Now, if you go to like a really small church and you guys completely buck the system, like, awesome. Cool.
Right.
You made your choice to do that, right? I know that the church that I went to had elders who were saying, this is not healthy, this is not sustainable, we need to reopen. They are now doing RSVPs for main service, which is insane to me personally. I've heard all the arguments.
Yeah.
It's still insane to me personally to go,
Whatever,
you need to
stop trying to kill my grandmother. Shut up, David. Shut up, David.
But that's the thing. It's like saying, Joseph, I know you want to come to church, but you have to RSVP, right? You have to make a reservation.
You have reserve a seat, $50.
It's just like, what? And then
did they put money on it?
No, thank God, dude.
First reserve for these people.
Oh my God, yeah. And then you hear, well, and this is the argument that I hear most of the time is, well, they're just keeping their head down till things get back to normal.
Right.
Why do you think things are going to get back to normal?
Exactly. Let me read this for you. So we're both Christians, so let me bring the Bible up in this.
Good. And there you go.
Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval, for he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, and all that stuff.
Is that last part in there, and all that stuff?
Yeah, and all that stuff. The Joseph paraphrase version. It keeps on going. I don't need to read the whole chapter, but so why shouldn't you obey the government when it comes to COVID? They've been instituted by God.
Who's the higher authority in the situation, though? I see you
Tell
smirking. Well, here's the question. Here's the question.
I'm
right?
the one asking the questions. David.
Why were let's just okay, why were the political powers, let's just put it that way, because you can name a couple different groups, why were they pissed at Jesus?
Because he was a revolutionary, because he was preaching against their authority, their power, their who's a good way to say this? He upended the power structure there, their way of life.
Right. Is that not what those people are doing in God's name as well?
Yep.
And didn't the state kill Jesus?
Yep.
Do I have to say anything else?
Exactly. I think when it starts going against God's word, that's where I would say you use the complete context of the Bible.
Yeah.
And you know, meeting regularly, fellowshipping, and
now don't get me wrong.
How many governments have restricted the? I mean, heck, when this was written or after this was written, Nero restricted the Christians from gathering.
Yeah.
And had a bunch of them killed, but they still had secret church and all that good stuff.
Yes, and here's the thing: I would tell you that that's not what Zoom is.
Yeah.
So
no, that's not what Zoom is.
I understand. Listen, oh man, it's tough, right? But this is honestly, I think, the time where people have to stand up to. Well, I'm gonna say. Let me just say this.
Finish it off.
They have to stand up to the dominant opinion of church leaders, not necessarily because what church leaders are doing is 100% wrong, but because ultimately they have to ask the question: if you break the rules, right? Who are you if you don't break the rules, who are you hurting the most? And if you do break the rules, who are you hurting the most, right? And so I understand that people did not wholly understand this thing when it was first enacted. Yes.
Right.
But if you want to talk about the authority of this country, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would tell you that the founding documents that give you the liberty to meet with your church, to not be locked down, to not do these things, right, is a higher authority than the bureaucrats in Washington telling you to do all these things for a power grab.
Separation of church and state.
Yeah. If you want to get into the details of the stuff, we can go into the details. I'm definitely not afraid to do that. I do not like that there was so many churches that I saw that it was just, yes, sir, we'll close down for 9 months. Now we're not even fully opened, and then there's been very little outreach on top of that.